Dr. Rodney Van Pelt, and today we're going to talk about omega-3s, fatty acids, omega-6s, and kind of what the ratio should be and so on. So most of us know that that's very important. So welcome, Dr. Rodney.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Steve. Good to be with you, viewers.
So let's talk a little bit about omega-3s. What are they found? And omega-6s, what the ratio should be. Are omega-6s all bad? So I'll just let you take over from there.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, I mean, so just to be clear, our primary topic this morning is omega-3 fatty acids, right? And we can't really talk about them completely in isolation because they are so related to omega-6 fatty acids. And both of them are essential fatty acids. And when in medicine and nutrition, when we say essential fatty acids, that means that the body cannot make those fatty acids out of other fats. We have to eat them. We have to take them into our body, in some other way. We got to get them from outside because our body can't make them from other things. So they're both essential fatty acids, and we need them both. And so this isn't a lecture that, about one is good and one is bad. That isn't the case. Actually, both of them are good for us. We need both of them. And we have a problem going on in modern culture, certainly modern, North American culture. And that is that we have enormously increased the amount of omega-6 fats that we've been eating. Okay, in our diets, they've increased 15 times or more since 1900s. Since 1900. Until now, in the past 100 plus years, we've increased the amount of omega-6 fatty acids that we're eating 15 times more now. And so you mentioned the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 when we started out here. And so there's two things that went on in those 100 years. One is an enormous increase in omega-6 fats, and a decrease in the intake of omega-3 fats. And that combination makes the ratio just way out of whack. We need omega-3 fats. They are good for us. We're going to talk about how much and what the ratio should be, et cetera, at the conclusion. But let's just start out with what good things come to us with omega-3 fatty acids. It's good for neurodevelopment. That means good for babies, good for a developing brain, a spinal cord, and it's good for brain function in everybody, in adults and everyone. It just helps us to think more clearly. Omega-3s reduce the incidence of Alzheimer's disease. It helps that. It reduces inflammation. There's a blood test called CRP, which is an acronym for C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation, and it reduces CRP. Omega-3s reduce bad cholesterol also. It reduces sudden cardiac death. That's huge. If we'll have to go into the indexes a little bit later. We should just keep going with it. I want to just talk about how good it is for us. Omega-3 supplementation or decreases diabetes. It decreases eye disease. And there's other things too. Let's talk about omega-6s. What do high omega-6s do? And they are kind of opposite. When we get excesses of them, it causes brittle bones, weak bones, arthritis, obesity. It's associated with cancer, especially prostate and breast cancer. It decreases our resistance to disease when we get excessive omega-6 fats. It increases asthma, increases allergies, and it increases our LDL cholesterol. It increases the bad cholesterol when we get lots of omega-6 fats. So there's quite a contrast between the two. I want to just remind our viewers, this isn't saying that omega-6 fats are bad for us and that omega-3 fats are good for us. I'm really suggesting that the average American, certainly, is getting too little omega-3 fats and too much omega-6 fats. We actually need them both, but we don't need excesses of omega-6 and deficiencies of omega-3. So let's go back to see how did we get here? How did we get to 15 times increase in omega-6 fats in the last 100+ years? We did it partly with the invention of vegetable oils, corn oil, safflower oil, canola oil, soybean oil, palm oil, and safflower, did I say? Sunflower seed, grapeseed oil. All these are high omega-6 fats. You think, well, how high? See, soybean oil has increased more than 1,000 times in the last 25 years. Okay, because it was largely introduced about 25 years ago, but it just is it's a huge source of omega-6. It really is not good for us. I recommend not eating soy oil at all. Just avoid it. And it's in everything. Oh my gosh. If you just start reading labels, watch for soybean oil, palm oil. These are the two cheapest oils, and they are really, really prolific. And I don't really know the ratio in soy oil. Corn oil has 60-to-1 ratio, omega-6 to omega-3. Okay, 60 parts of omega-6, 1 part of omega-3. Can you see? That's way out of whack. In our bodies, we want the ratio to be closer to 3 or 4 to 1, 3 or 4 grams of omega-6 for every gram of omega-3 fats that we have in our diet. Okay, so omega-6, it's intended that we have somewhat more than we do of omega-3. And that's not what's happening today. It's way out of whack. Safflower oil is 77 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. Okay, numbers like this are how we've gotten so far out of whack. These things are insinuated into processed foods. You know, most things that come off the shelf in a grocery store, probably 80% of what comes off the shelf in a grocery store is processed food. And most of it has 1 or more of these toxic oils in it that are just way, way out of whack. And there's a thing called an EPA or an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. It's a test that can be done. And that test can be about 4 to 1. It would be, a reasonable result. And but they can be up to 30 to 1. When they test my blood to see what's in it, right? They could find that I have 30 grams, 30 parts omega-6 for every 1 part of omega-3. That'd be way out of whack and associated with disease. That test is only looking at a ratio, right? The ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. And it doesn't tell the whole story because it doesn't say how much we have. I could still have really low levels. I could be deficient in my levels of these essential fatty acids and still have a normal or good ratio. And so another test that is done is an omega-3 index. And with that test, they're looking at the percentage of omega-3. They're kind of looking at how much I have in my blood. And so some consider that a more useful test. Um, and what we find with that test is that a good result is for well, the usual person in America has a result. Let's say this isn't a good result, though. The usual person has 2 to 3% omega-3 index. Okay, that's really low, and that is associated with the diseases that I mentioned earlier. And a good result would be between 8 and 12% being the omega-3 index. And that's associated with a 90% decrease in sudden cardiac death. That's amazing. 90% reduction. All right. So there's some testing that can be done to look at it. And then what are the recommendations then for how would I change my life to, to improve this? Even if I didn't have a test done, I just know I want to increase my omega-3s and decrease my omega-6s. I'm not trying to make omega-6 go to zero. You really can't. Omega-6 is found in lots of foods, and so is omega-3. It's found in fish and beef and poultry and grains, and so it's found around. So we can reduce our levels too low of these fats overall. We don't need to avoid fats, but we do want to avoid processed foods. That's almost anything that comes in a box, a bag, a jar, a can. We want to read labels carefully, and then we can supplement omega-3 fats. I get mine from wild Alaskan salmon oil. Salmon is really, really good for you. Mackerel is good omega-3 fats also. These need to be wild fish. If you've listened to me before, you've heard me mention I think no one should eat farmed fish. Farmed fish don't eat normal food. And there's a saying in natural medicine, we've heard it said, you are what you eat. In natural medicine, we might amend that saying to, you are what you eats. So if I'm going to eat fish, what did the fish eat that I'm eating? Okay, that's going to determine the health that I get from that fish. It's true with, if I'm eating beef, what did the cow eat? What did the chicken eat? It's why there's interest in whether the chicken was a free range chicken that's eating the normal food for chickens, or if a cow is eating grass, or if it's being fed grain and soy products. Chickens can be fed soy products also. If they eat the soy products and the soy oil, they're going to have the abnormal fats in their body. It's things that I don't want. Anyway, so we want to eat good wild fish. And then in a supplement, some recommend eating fish two to 3 times a week. We want to watch out for contamination, right? Sometimes there can be heavy metals in fish, and in supplements for that matter, in the fish oil supplements. So we want pure ones that have been purified and tested. And how much supplements should we take? There's a recommendation by some to sum up, that is to add together, the EPA and DHA. And that's listed on a label if you have a fish oil supplement. EPA plus DHA. And I want the total to be right about 3,000 milligrams a day. Not the total omega-3s, the total of EPA and DHA. And that will just get our body full of these fatty acids. It turns out the reason they matter is fatty acids are a big part of making up the cell walls in our body. Our cell walls are made of of what we call phospholipids. There's a dual or twin layer of phospholipids that make up the cell membranes in us people. Every cell in our body is made up of phospholipids. The lipid part of that means fat or fatty acid. And so these fats, the omega-3s, omega-6s, and even trans fats that we didn't mention that much now, but we don't want to eat those. They get insinuated into or incorporated into the cell walls. And if there's too little omega-3, then the cell walls are kind of hard. They allow things to pass through them that shouldn't go in the cell, and so they just they lose their function, and the cells lose their function, and then it can cause disease. Whatever organ in the body is involved, it doesn't work as well. And that's why there's such a broad list. You might think, how can there be such a broad list of problems and benefits, associated with this omega-3? And it's because these are part of every cell in our body. And it matters what we eat, what we think, what we drink, and what we do. What we say matters.
So I want to ask you, you said there's some tests that can be done to find out where your omega-3s are. What can you just ask your doctor to ask for those tests on blood work, or is that what you would do? And what are the tests again?
Thank you. Yeah, so the tests, there's an omega-3 index and an omega-6 omega-3 ratio. And you can ask your doctor. Many doctors won't, many conventional doctors may not be aware of them or wouldn't care and won't order them. I don't really know. It might require a natural medicine doctor. But a little research online, I think, and you could find out where and how to get them.
Okay. All right. Well, great information. And also, omega-3 and omega-6, those both come from polyunsaturated fats. Is that correct?
They are both polyunsaturated fats.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks again, Doctor. If you guys have questions or comments, or you'd like us to cover a topic, just leave it in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in fitness, health and fitness tips and lectures. We're the place where you can find that. So thanks for being with us, Dr. Rodney.
Yes, it's great to be with you again, Steve. I bless you all.